What's going on, apes? Welcome back to the channel. We may be looking at the start of a post-earnings rally. We actually just went positive as we are currently speaking, up about 0.5%, almost 1% at times. It's getting a little volatile, but there is no shortage of good news. So I think that's what it comes down to. There's a lot of good news. These kind of earnings calls and events, they take a while for investors to fully process the news and price in what that could mean for future growth and profits of a company. So we are likely to see, in my personal opinion, a post earnings rally, and that's what we're going to talk about, as well as go over everything else you guys need to know. So let's skip the long intro. Let's get straight into this video. Hit that like button for me, consider subscribing to the channel, all of that good stuff. And like I said, AMC is at $40.14 per share, at that critical level of $40 per share. That's a psychological level per se, that we just want to stay above $40, right? But we are seeing a lot of volatility, a lot of volume coming back into the stock. We just seen a big pop. Now we're up 0.60%. We were just down when I started making this video about a third of a percent. So we're definitely seeing some movement right here. Don't think it's anything crazy like shorts covering. I think it's just a lot of people that are buying the dip on AMC, mix that with the low volume that we are seeing on any given day, possibly shorts covering, but I mean, that doesn't seem as likely. We're only at 10.5 million for volume right now, but we are going up quite a lot as we do speak, almost approaching 1%. So definitely looking at this post earnings rally that is coming, in my personal opinion. Why do I say that? Because back here on all three of these earnings reports, we've seen pretty substantial red days, right? Back here August 9th, back here May 6th, and back here in March 10th. Seen substantial red days on earnings, and then we always had a positive reaction after earnings. So I think that's going to be the case here as well. We're obviously a little bit higher than now than we were back here in August when we did have our last earnings call. So that's good right there. And you're definitely seeing the volume coming in right now as we currently speak, up over 1%. Now, that's basically the premise behind this. And like I said, there's a lot of good news. AMC to sell its popcorn outside of movie theaters starting in 2022. Theater chain AMC explores NFTs after big screen return boosts sales, launching its own cryptocurrency, NFTs for major movies. Could potentially in Q4 next quarter release a profit, so that'll be interesting. And basically just no shortage of good news. There's tons of news. It takes time, like I said, for this stuff to actually get processed and for investors to really, process what is happening, what that means for growth of the company. And if I'm correct here, the rest of this week should be pretty bullish. Now, let's get into some of the other data, and let's talk about the Ortex data, and we're looking at 17.71% short interest of free float, 90.68 million shares that are currently sold short. They finally did update this and revise this to the upside because we did get the settlement date that was October 29th, and the short interest came in at about 18.5%. So it's good to see them actually update their estimates, because their estimates were terribly off yesterday when they said only 16% short interest. Now, share utilization is at 85.41%. Not too high, not too low. Free flow on loan, relatively the same at 19.38%. So nothing too crazy, but there definitely is a lot of shares that need to be covered at some point, probably in the near term future. The higher AMC does go, and I'll say this again, I've said this a couple times, once AMC does start to approach about 50, 53, 55, or even $60 per share, a lot of those short positions that were likely initiated in between $60 and $70 per share, a lot of those positions start to get crunched, and you start to see your position that was positive start to get eaten away and possibly even going negative. That's where short sellers are more likely to cover on their short positions, because they figure, I already got a profit, I don't want this to go against me, I don't want to get margin called, whatever the case is, and they cover on their positions. Not in huge numbers, obviously, but there's always going to be a short seller, at least for AMC, that will cover, and then another one will get right back in to replace that. That's why we're seeing the short interest just continuing to go up at a slow pace. Almost every single exchange reported short interest. So That's basically the scoop. It can get quite explosive if we do cross over $50. Not sure if that'll happen again, but as history has showed us, we do see quite substantial moves after earnings. Now, let's move on from that. Let's talk about the stock tracker data, because this is even more important. And for November 19th, this is really going to be the week where, obviously that's next week, if we do see a post earnings rally, this will likely have the most influence to this rally. It's going to be this option chain, and we're already looking at 191,000 calls that are out of the money, 18,407 calls that are currently in the money. So at this current moment, there's not a lot of calls in the money. If we do start to see a lot of these calls start to go in the money, you're going to see rapid hedging, especially next week. And the deeper we do go into the money, the more hedging that will be done. And we even have more activity, obviously, for November 19th, the next week's expiration dates, than we do have for this Friday. But watch for a lot of this open interest and out of the money calls at about 180,000, in the money calls at about 12,000 for this Friday, roll over into next week's. That's going to be a very important thing to be watching for. We could see this next week's option chain populate quite rapidly, and that'll even give us a bigger chance of seeing a potential gamma squeeze. Now, the 13F filings that are coming out, incredibly bullish as well. Some firms, like right here, Creative Planning, sold their call position, sold their put position, but all of these other firms just holding on to their positions. Otter Creek Advisors sold their put position right here. So if anything, there's a lot of bullish sentiment. You're selling your put positions. All these firms are essentially holding on to their long share positions. You can see BlackRock right here, 40 million shares, about a 10%, a little bit less than 10% owner of AMC stock, has held on to their entire position, not doing anything with it, at $47.37 per share. So it's definitely like a hedge fund versus hedge fund kind of situation. Some of these guys are long, some of these guys are short, some of these guys are both, but it's definitely a good thing to see, especially BlackRock holding on to their entire positions, as well as just a lot of new positions overall for quite substantial amount of shares. 70,000 shares right there, 30,000 shares, 46,000 shares, 225,000 shares, 19,000 shares, and the list goes on and on and on. 178,000, 217,000 additional shares. Literally, the list goes on and on. So I think right here, just showing you guys the bullish sentiment of the hedge funds and institutions. And the last thing that I do want to talk about is that AMC could potentially pull a profit in next quarter. This could be a reason to fuel a lot of this post-earnings rally. So AMC's profitability hangs on the domestic box office topping $2 billion in Q4. Here's what would need to happen. AMC said if the domestic box office grosses from October, November, and December hit $2 billion, it would be able to post positive cash flow in the fourth quarter. Analysts are split on whether they think that target is attainable, with some saying the goal is easily achievable and others appearing a bit more skeptical. Ticket sales of 637.3 million were collected in October, leaving 1.36 billion to be delivered in November and December if AMC is to hit its goal. So if that does happen, free cash flow positive. That's definitely a great thing right there, right? So, or positive cash flow. So that'll be a big sign, and I think that's very possible. I'm not sure the exact movie layout that is coming out. That's going to be very important. I know Spider-Man is coming out in December. That's only going to have about 2 weeks of actual, box office numbers for the fourth quarter. But who knows? I think you're going to see a lot of bullish activity overall with AMC stock, like we are seeing a little bit today now, going from down 4%. We were negative 4% today. Now we are up almost 1%. That's a 5% move round trip. That shows you a lot of bullish activity right there. We didn't even crater after earnings. We only went down 4% in after hours after earnings when we were up 8% to close out the day. So we're still substantially positive from where we were just a couple of weeks ago. So that is the scoop. That is the situation. That is the post earnings rally that is likely to come, in my personal opinion. Now, I would not get discouraged. This is not the time. This is the time to sit back and watch the gains come rolling in. If you're somebody that has been invested in this for a while, you know that this is only a time game, right? We're in this until the shorts cover. So until then, it really doesn't matter. You're just watching numbers fluctuate up and down. So hit that like button for me. Consider subscribing to the channel. Check out the links in the description of this video, as well as the link for the buy and sell alerts if you guys want to be notified every time I make a trade in stock options and or crypto. We have been killing it over there. Definitely check it out. But that is going to be all for this video. I will see you guys in the next one.